Thanks to bioprinting, a man is repeatedly resurrected to help ensure humanity's survival on a new planet. However, the test subject soon discovers he's a willing pawn in a sinister scheme. One night, in 2050, Timo and Mickey escape into a dark alleyway, trying to outsmart the goons. Unfortunately, they are cornered, prompting them to race to the gated exit to escape. At that moment, the thugs' leader activates two robots, which quickly attach to their targets and electrocute them. Later, at the loan shark's headquarters, the captives watch in horror as a borrower's limbs are severed for failing to repay his debt. Underboss informs them that the man fled to Mongolia to evade his responsibilities, but they still manage to capture him. With this in mind, he threatens the pair that they'll pursue them relentlessly to the ends of the earth if they miss their deadline. Knowing they're penniless because of their failed business venture, they apply to be crew members on a spaceship heading to an alien planet. Since Mickey has no family left, he applies as an expendable, the sole person assigned with deadly assignments, but can be cloned. On the other hand, Timo has been hired as a flitter pilot, despite having only recently obtained his learner's permit, much to his friend's amazement. Following this, Gemma introduces him to a human printing technology powered by organic waste produced in the spaceship. She emphasizes that these matters are used as raw materials in reprinting the human body, an essential process an expendable must undergo. To start the first requirement, the woman performs a full scan of his biodata, allowing the machine to reprint him in his exact current state. Suddenly, she notices a pimple on his forehead, prompting her to squeeze it, afraid it'll appear on every copy. After the body scan, the supervisor conducts a memory upload, which will be required once a week so that Mickey doesn't have any gaps every time he gets reprinted. She injects him with a special solution to restore his memories, but it only resurfaces his painful past. Back when he was a child, he curiously pressed a red button in their car, causing an accident that claimed his mother's life. On the day of the expedition, he notices that the whole room is silent, as the crew is focused on finishing their food. It is not until Kenneth Marshall and his wife, Ilfa, enter the cafeteria that the whole crowd cheers for their visit. Even the commander's simple move causes people to applaud him, much to the Expendable's confusion. As his colleagues are busy flattering him, Mickey notices a security agent, Nasha Barrage, who's also weirded out by their fanaticism. The woman notices he's looking at her with great interest, so she invites him to sit with her. Once they're together, they get to know each other, and they become engrossed in their own world. Preferring their own company, the pair leaves the gathering and heads to a room to make love. While they're away, the commander announces to the crew that he's forbidding physical intimacy in their ship, believing it consumes a lot of calories. He fears it will cause the crew to consume more food, threatening their survivability. The crowd expresses their dismay with his decision, so Marshall promises that once they land on Niflheim and secure their food production, they'll focus on repopulating the planet. With time, the couple's relationship flourishes, making them inseparable. His girlfriend even shows support for him when he's exposed to deadly gas during a mission. In return, he takes care of her by helping her prepare for her duty. 4 years later, the ship finally arrives at Niflheim, and Mickey is tasked to test the planet's air by inhaling it. The man starts coughing blood in the laboratory, signaling a lethal virus in the atmosphere. Though he perishes, he instantly returns to life as the machine reprints another version of him. For months, he experiences a repeated cycle of life and death due to the scientists' experimentation. They subject him to harsh methods, from chambered gas exposure to vaccine testing. Eventually, a highly effective vaccine is developed, all thanks to the Expendable and his clones who sacrificed their lives. Now, the 17th iteration of Mickey accompanies a group of soldiers in exploring an ice cave. Kai, curiously regarding a tardigrade-like life form, becomes terrified when it lunges at her. Her comrades quickly steady her, and they retreat, wary of the possible dangers. Suddenly, Jennifer notices another creature watching from above, prompting her to shoot it out of fear. Unfortunately, the ice ceiling begins to crumble, and fragments topple over her, ending her life. Later that day, Marshall reprimands the Expendable for letting the agent die, emphasizing that it's supposed to be his fate. He's frustrated because the woman was a possible candidate for repopulating the planet. The commander then analyzes the life form his crew has encountered and finds them creepy. For Ilfa, they should call them creepers, and her husband quickly accepts her suggestion. As punishment, Mickey has to work tirelessly until he can bring them a creeper sample. During his duty, The Expendable experiences a devastating fall into the fissure, which breaks his comms and thermals. Before he loses hope of surviving, he notices Timo's flitter landing near him, so he tries to call him for help. Surprised at his friend's survival, the pilot lowers himself into a shallow platform, making the injured man optimistic that he'll be saved. Sadly, the aviator only saves the flamethrower and volunteers to return it to the weaponry, explaining that he'll get reprinted anyway. As he awaits his death, a giant creeper approaches him and bares its horrifying mouth, causing him to faint in fear. Moments later, he awakens and finds himself getting dragged by the creature. Initially, he believes it's taking him into its lair to feed him to its offspring. However, the flock of creepers helps bring him to the surface, much to the man's surprise. For the next few hours, he endures the harsh temperature just to find a way back home. Coincidentally, he spots a vehicle roaming the icy terrain, so he desperately calls for the driver's attention. The woman is distracted by the loud music, hindering her from hearing Mickey's pleas. Left without a choice, he leaps onto the back of the truck, determined to return home. Back at the spaceship, the crew members are indifferent about his return, shattering his assumption that people are worried about his absence. Dejected and exhausted, he retreats to his room and prepares for bed. After washing his face, he plops onto the mattress, which awakens his clone. Seeing his fear, Mickey 18 explains he was printed because the crew thought the creepers ate him. Mickey 17 fear increases as he realizes they're multiples, a punishable offense that can cause him to get his existence deleted. He begins to reminisce about an incident years ago that prohibited the utilization of human printing technology on Earth. 5 years earlier, Alan Manikova, one of the pioneers of bioprinting, was suspected of killing homeless people. However, the scientist provided an alibi that he wasn't present at the crime scene and was getting his makeup done for a children's science show. Still, the authorities raided his house and, to their surprise, discovered his clone. It turns out the man exploited the bioprinting technology by cloning himself without the company's knowledge. Through this, he can have an alibi despite committing the killings. While the two Manikovas were in custody, the third copy roamed the streets and unremorsefully killed an unsuspecting homeless man. Because of this, the word multiples was coined and became controversial. One day, Marshall proposed to the committee that they allow a trial run of human printing far from their planet, using only one person called the Expendable. He believes they can use the technology for their economic benefit. In the present, 18, determined to secure his place, chases after 17 and knocks him unconscious with a dumbbell. Shortly after, the deviant clone takes him to the cycler to dispose of him. As soon as 17 gains consciousness, he plans to strike him while he's preoccupied. Unfortunately, the man senses his attempt and punches him until he is weakened. Now, under his duplicate's mercy, he negotiates with him by suggesting they live by splitting their tasks. Despite his suggestion, his copy refuses because he doesn't want to live his uneventful life. Suddenly, the pair hears a presence approaching, compelling them to hide. Unexpectedly, it's Timo, and they discover he's selling oxazofol, a forbidden substance used to power a flamethrower. 18 declares his intent to kill him, recalling how their friend burdened them with debt by placing most of the loan under their name. Unable to control his anger, the deviant confronts the pilot and thrusts him down the broiler. Before he succeeds in killing him, 17 intervenes by tackling his copy to the ground. He then attempts to help his friend escape, but his clone aggressively pulls him away and subdues him. This time, 18 tries to push Timo down the broiler with a searing rod, but he's interrupted when two agents enter the room. One of them is Nasha, and the woman confronts her boyfriend about what has transpired. He lies that he's simply helping his friend escape the broiler after he accidentally fell in. With his great acting, his girlfriend believes him and invites him to make love in his room. Unbeknownst to her, 17 has witnessed their exchange, and he's jealous of them. He tries to follow them to stop his clone from sleeping with her. However, two crew members appear and inform him that he was chosen to have dinner with Marshall and Ilfa. During their meal, Mickey devours his food heartily, given that he hasn't eaten since his return. The commander apologizes for his harsh treatment after Jennifer's death, but the man assures him it's fine. In the middle of their conversation, Agent Kai eventually arrives, and the group happily welcomes her to join the gathering. Straight to the point, their leader reveals that they want the agent to become one of their reproducers, stressing that she possesses impeccable genetics. Offended, the woman expresses how dehumanized she feels with his remark, much to the couple's surprise. Since Marshall is too stunned to speak, Ilfa explains that her husband has high standards and wants to populate the planet exclusively for humans. All of a sudden, Mickey begins to throw up and experiences severe pain, prompting the commander to summon the scientists out of concern. Arkady apologetically explains that the Expendable experiences the side effect of the growth hormone they incorporated in developing the meat. Seeing this as an opportunity to test their antidote, the head scientist injects the serum into Mickey's neck. He starts to writhe in pain, making Marshall think he's beyond saving. Thus, he retrieves his gun and attempts to end his misery. Alarmed, Kai intervenes and criticizes him for treating him inhumanely. Unfazed, he reasons that it's part of his job, and he'll get reprinted anyway. Just then, the Expendable expresses that he's already cured, compelling the concerned agent to help him recover. Moments later, in the soldier's room, the pair converses about his experience of dying, leading them to get closer. Due to the tension, she tries to kiss him, but he's loyal to his lover, so he abruptly leaves. He then sneaks into his room, hoping to explain his clone's situation to his girlfriend. Much to his surprise, she knows about his clone, but still accepts him. Mischievously, she instructs them to stand beside each other to compare their appearance. Then, she writes their respective numbers on their chests to identify them easily. The woman laughs excitedly, expressing that one of her fantasies has finally come true. Later that night, the woman makes love to the clones, but Kai enters the room, planning to give 17 tea. Disappointed that he has broken their protocol, she immediately leaves the room to report it to their leader. Nasha immediately follows her colleague to prevent her from endangering her boyfriend's safety. Shortly after learning about the multiples, the agent boldly proposes to have one of them to herself, infuriating her coworker. She finds her suggestion distasteful, especially since it objectifies her boyfriend. Meanwhile, 18's resentment toward Marshall grows when his predecessor reveals he was nearly shot at dinner. Unable to restrain himself, he steals their girlfriend's gun and vows to eliminate their leader. 17 tries to intervene, but he refuses to listen and shoves him aside. At a public ceremony, the commander unveils a massive Niflheim boulder, declaring it their commemorative stone as the planet's founder. Amid the cheers, a vengeful 18 raises his gun at Marshall, but a crew member swiftly disarms him. Just then, a small creeper suddenly crawls out from the stone, causing chaos among the crowd. The superior orders his men to seal the exits and gas the creature, afraid that it will spread a contagious disease. Since the agents fail to catch the little intruder, the captain spots 17 and orders him to take over. He struggles initially, but upon hearing its chirp, he mimics the sound to soothe it. However, his superior's patience wears thin, compelling him to resume the chase, and he eventually captures it. On the other hand, 18 manages to recover and resumes his attempt to assassinate his target. Swiftly, his duplicate and Nasha intervene, startling the commander with the unexpected case of multiples. Slowly, the commotion simmers down, but another creeper appears and latches onto Marshall's face. Overcome with fear, the man commands his soldiers to eliminate it, and they mercilessly obliterate the helpless creature. Later that night, in prison, 17 blames the creepers for refusing to eat him, which he believes ruined his life. This revelation surprises his girlfriend, concluding that the aliens are merciful for saving him from his previous assignment. At that moment, Timo sneaks into the room with the help of his accomplice, leaving them questioning his intent. Instead of answering, he offers them food, but Nasha refuses to accept it, untrusting of him. Without a choice, the man reveals that the leader of the loan sharks, Darius Blank, instructed him to kill his friend and record it. 18 feigns negotiation with him by sacrificing himself to prevent him from succeeding. In exchange, he pleads to give him a vial of oxazofol as a farewell gift. Thinking it's just, the pilot orders his accomplice to give his supply. Though against his will, he complies, but as he offers the substance to the prisoner, he grabs his wrists and slams him into the cell bars. Seizing the opportunity, Nasha grabs his taser and incapacitates the traitorous men. Once she's liberated, the enraged woman grabs the chainsaw and attempts to kill Timo, but her colleague intervenes to prevent her from committing a crime. As the agents escort the duplicates to Marshall for sentencing, Zeke tells Nasha that a horde of creepers is circling the spaceship, drawn by the captured creepers' relentless screams. Shortly after, Ilfa, obsessed with creating sauces, cuts off the creeper's tail to use it as an ingredient. Right on time, the commander arrives and rushes toward 18, pressing a searing rod against his skin to mark him and distinguish him from his predecessor. Fueled with hatred, he orders Arkady to delete his memory and proceeds to plan on which clones he'll kill first. Before things escalate, Nasha attempts to save her boyfriends by falsely claiming that the rogue copy only aimed at the creepers to defend him. Despite this, Marshall disregards her words and warns her to worry about herself, as she has committed multiple violations. Moving on, the leader expresses his desire to declare war against the creatures, but the agent protests. She stresses that the creepers never sought war, arguing that if they were truly violent, they would have attacked already. Moreover, she informs them that the aliens saved Mickey, hoping it will sway her superior. However, Marshall merely laughs, dismissing her claim as absurd. He then mocks the Expendable, suggesting that the creatures refuse to devour him because he's recycled meat. Dorothy abruptly interjects in their conversation, voicing that the creepers might be high intellectual individuals. She unveils a prototype translator and urges the captain to use it to communicate with them. Sadly, the man simply dismisses the idea, believing he won't dare stoop down to their level. Offended, the baby creeper spits at him, enraging the man to the point of attempting to harm it. Nasha loses her patience and chastises him for thinking lowly of the creepers when they're the intruders on their territory. Furthermore, she hates how he ruined Mickey's life for his selfish desire to gain power. As a payback for insulting him, Marshall hooks the creature and threatens to dump it into the broiler. Without a choice, Nasha bites the rope to prevent the innocent creeper from dying. Zeke, appalled by their leader's inhumane actions, discreetly orders his comrade to record the scene using his glasses. Now, the commander orders Arkady to unleash lethal gas on the creepers, determined to eradicate their entire population. Ilfa then suggests he makes the duplicates' punishment more thrilling. She instructs them to compete in a game where they must gather 100 creeper tails. The first to complete the challenge wins, while the loser meets a gruesome fate, detonating on the spot. Outside, Dorothy hands 17 a translator, hoping it will help him communicate with the creatures. A few moments later, the pair approaches the creeper's mother to warn her of the impending lethal gassing. When the Expendable hears her voice through the device, he thanks her for saving his life. Curious, 18 asks the leader why they saved his predecessor, and she simply says it's the right thing to do. However, she finds it unfair that humans unremorsefully killed one of her sons, Luko, despite their kindness. Worried that her captive son Zoko will suffer the same fate, her family unleashes an ear-piercing scream which they claim can make human brains explode. Afraid, 17 quickly communicates to his comrades that they must return the baby creeper, or they will perish. Instead of listening, Preston advises Marshall to speak with the leader himself to assert his dominance. Meanwhile, the mother creeper negotiates with Mickey, demanding that one human must die to atone for Luko's death. On the ship, Nasha attacks Ilfa and threatens to kill her unless they heed her demands. Before the soldier can retaliate, Zeke intervenes, urging them to listen. She then insists that returning the baby creeper to its mother guarantees them safety. Eventually, both of the women gain their freedom, but Marshall's wife grabs a scalpel and slashes the head soldier's hand, causing him to let go of the rope briefly. Thankfully, Mickey's girlfriend quickly grabs it before the creeper can plummet to its death. At the snowy terrain, the creepers discover that the commander and his battalion are approaching them. To protect their mother, the creatures gather atop each other and form a swirling mound. The commander becomes upset at the sight because his plan to give his impeccable speech is now ruined. Because of this, he orders his men to prepare by blasting them mercilessly. Right before they can execute them, 18 appears and pounces at Marshall to protect the creatures. Meanwhile, Nasha reunites with 17, and they return the baby creeper to its mother safely. Suddenly, they hear the duplicate's voice, catching them off guard. He reveals how he honored his promise to the creeper's leader by detonating the bomb in his vest, sacrificing himself along with their commander. In the aftermath of the sacrifice, Ilfa, overcome with grief, ends her life in the psychiatric ward. On the other hand, Preston and the other accomplices are imprisoned to atone for their wicked deeds. As for Timo, he's on parole, but he encounters one of Darius's men on the ship, much to his fear. The thug tries to end him for failing to accomplish his task, but the pilot overpowers him. Now that the humans and creepers coexist peacefully, Mickey communicates with the leader to confirm whether their high-pitched screams can kill them. Funnily enough, the mother creeper reveals that it's only a bluff. 6 months later, Nasha, the concurrent council member, holds a ceremony in which they will destroy the human printing technology. Amidst her speech, her boyfriend suddenly encounters a horrifying nightmare, where Marshall gets reprinted by a grieving Ilfa, who's also a clone. Upon returning to reality, he reflects on the possible dangers of the machine once evil people get a hold of it. But once he presses the detonating button, he's relieved now that it's destroyed.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.